Hi again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder, and it is Sunday, the 9th of February, 2025. And today, till a regulator told you so. And by that, I mean that in this continuing series on the Truth in Lending Act, an individual that had been following along had taken their um, information and filed a complaint. And the complaint got sent to the state regulator. The state regulator contacted them. And so I said, well, oh, and the state regulator said they've contacted the lending institution. It's going to be 3 weeks before we hear something. And a lot of people have gotten a similar type thing. I say a lot. I don't know how many people have done it, but people that have gotten similar responses. And so I had said, well, why don't you send him your calculations and have him do the math instead of waiting 3 weeks. Because he's the regulator. Hey, do the math and tell me if I'm correct. So um, contacted him, and the guy said, "Well, send me your basically your disclosure." That's what he wanted to see. So he sent the disclosure, and the guy came back with some information, and we'll look at it a little bit here. In there, it said, "Yeah, that the regulator agrees that the stated annual percentage rate (APR) is correct." Well, if you've been following along in these videos, you know that if the APR is correct, you use that in the formula to figure out finance charges, you'll find that the finance charges that have been disclosed on the disclosure, the Truth in Lending Act disclosure, are understated. And they're severely understated by thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. It just depends what kind of loan it is. Well, by law, it can only be, if there's no real estate involved, no more than $10, and if there is real estate involved, no more than $100. So the problem is that the regulator, state regulator, didn't mention anything about the finance charges. He just was agreeing that the stated finance charges were correct by the way that he calculated them. Now here's the rub. He didn't longhand calculate them using a formula. He put them into a program, spit out a number. Hey, I put in these values, it gives me this, I guess it's okay. Well, I'm going to show you that, by law, that isn't what they're supposed to be doing. And so there's all sorts of little things that we're still dealing with, but I'm going to take it as a win. Okay, well, if you agree that the stated APR is correct, then the disclosed APR is correct, then the disclosed finance charges are severely understated. That's a crime. I want to rescind the contract. I want my money back. I want damages. I want da 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 da, whatever that can be. Right? You want administrative enforcement action on your behalf. And so, if you're just watching this is the first video you've watched in this series, I need to do a little bit of review. You can catch up or show you where to find the rest of the information. And then we're going to charge ahead. So let me show you real quick. Give me just a second. But first, I got to finish who I am. I am Whiskey Robert Allen, DOD ID number 12112800006, a U.S. Army indefinite enlistee, also known as Rob Ryder. Email address courtofrecord@aol.com. And you can find videos like this and other things I've done on X or YouTube at Rob Ryder, ROBBBRYDER, and Rumble, ROBBRYDER. And so if you went to the granddaddy of them all, that'd be YouTube, Rob Ryder, ROBBBRYDER, and searched under videos, you can find a whole bunch of videos I have done on this idea of TILA, T-I-L-A, 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 right? Or sometimes I put Truth in Lending in. But so anyone you see TILA, Truth in Lending, all have something to do with what we're talking about now. All have built to this point. Starting with this one here that didn't have either of those in, which I just said Elon Musk. I'm positive Grok agrees. And in that, I was showing that I asked Grok some questions, and let's look to see what Grok told me. I had asked Grok to provide a formula to calculate the annual percentage rate. And this is the formula that Grok gave me. He said APR, it, APR equals the total interest and fees. And that's what's called the finance charge. It's just not the interest, but all the fees associated with the loan. Total interest and fees divided by the loan amount. That's going to give you a fraction. And you're going to take that fraction and multiply it by 365 divided by loan term days. So you got a 20-year loan times 365. That'll give you the days. Well, once you have this formula, if you do a little manipulation of the formula, you can, instead of solving for APR, you can solve for total interest and fees. Again, this is the finance charge. You can solve for the finance charge because the finance charge would equal the APR times the loan amount times loan term and days divided by 365. And just to show you that's where it came from, right? This is me talking to Grok back on that particular day. Where I wanted to do it one step at a time, he was, just jumping ahead. So he said, let's start with the original APR formula. This is the formula he gave, which I just showed you. And then he's going to go and multiply by both sides and show you how to manipulate the formula to end up with this final one that's the finance charge, aka total interest and fees, equals APR times loan amount times loan term days divided by 365. So, right, Ritluski didn't tell you that's the formula. Grok did. The problem is getting somebody else to use the formula because they don't want to use a formula. They want to put it into a program and spit some numbers out and say, well, this is what the numbers are. Well, the problem with that, this is under the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau website, which we're talking about again in just a second. This is really not the proper name of the bureau that was created by the Truth in Lending Act. But nevertheless, they have all they're showing us here is what's in the Federal Register. Excuse me, what is that called? The C.F.R, Code of Federal Regulations. All right, so in subsection 1026.22, determination of annual percentage rate. Right, the annual percentage rate is a measure of the cost of credit expressed as a yearly rate, which relates to the amount, the time, and value received by the consumer to the amount and timing of payments made. The annual percentage rate shall be determined in accordance with either the actuarial method, or the United States rule method. Explanations, equations, and instructions for determining the annual percentage rate in accordance with the actuarial method are set forth in Appendix J of this part. An error in disclosure of the annual percentage rate or finance charge shall not itself be considered a violation of this part if the error resulted from a corresponding error in the calculation tool used in good faith by the creditor, and upon discovery of the error, the creditor promptly discontinues use of that calculation tool for disclosure purposes and notifies the Bureau in writing of the error in the calculation tool. Anyways, as a general rule, the annual percentage rate shall be considered accurate if it is not more than 1/8 of 1% above or below. Above would be overstated, below would be understated. The annual percentage rate determined in accordance with paragraph A1 of the section. Okay, so they got it. According to this, they have to use the actuarial method set forth in Appendix J or United States rule. Didn't say anything about putting it into some little boxes and putting numbers in and, spitting out something, but that's what they did. So if that's wrong, according to this, if you use the calculation tool to do it, because that's what that is now, we're talking about a calculation tool, and there's an error discovered, well, then they have to continue the use and, tell the Bureau. So I don't think any of those things have happened because they just continue on. Just real quick, because I have this up here, this is, if you've not done this yet and haven't gotten started, this is where we started with all them videos ago with the Federal Reserve Consumer Health, where you're supposed to go in here, you can fill out a complaint, telling you got something wrong, they're going to send it to the right regulator. That's what they say. But they also say you can go here to FDIC bank fine, right? So if you've already done this, and they've told you in their answer to go to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which doesn't exist in law, but that's where some people have been told to go, or whatever answer you've gotten, maybe what you want to do is come back here and hit this bank fine. Let's take a quick look at it here. All right, it'll take you to this page, Bank Fine Suite, and like in my case, my bank is Huntington Bank. If I hit search, we'll see that there's all sorts of Huntington banks that are listed. Check, check, check. There's not a Huntington Bank, Huntington National Association. That isn't. Huntington Bank, this is closed. Of course, that's at a particular address. So you got to go in here, put your address, and finish up. I'm just showing you, hey, there are some, right? That's how you would find out if your bank is under the FDIC, and if it's under the FDIC, then you can just file your complaint directly with the FDIC. So what the law says in Title 15, which is Commerce and Trade, Title 15, United States Code, Commerce and Trade, under Section 1607, Administrative Enforcement, it talks about the enforcing agencies that have to do with consumer financial protection, which is what the TILA falls under, Truth in Lending Act. And it says that how's it going to be done? Well, number one, by appropriate federal agency, as defined in Section 3Q of 12 U.S.C. 1813. And without going and looking at that again, I can tell you that that is the Comptroller of the Currency, the FDIC, or the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. Those are the three federal banking agencies covered under 12 U.S.C. 1813. And what they have jurisdiction over are national banks, federal savings associations, member banks, the Federal Reserve System. Right? Somebody's got a routing number, falls under the Federal Reserve System. So this is why I'm saying, well, why are the state regulators getting involved? This is a federal matter. This is supposed to be determined by a federal regulator, not a state regulator. Banks and state savings associations are served by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So if they're, if they're under the FDIC, they're supposed to be by what, up here under this group of regulators. And in the case we're looking at, it was a state regulator that was talking to the individual. Okay, if it's a federal credit union like Navy Federal Credit Union, well, they would fall under this guy, the Director of National Credit Union. You can go to their website, you can put in a complaint there. Got Packers and Stockyards, Farm Credit Administration, and then by the Bureau. Well, again, they want you to believe that this is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, but that is not the name of the Bureau. We'll see that in a second. But finally, the Security Exchange Act. So nowhere in here did I see any place where it said take it to your state regulator. And yet that's where some of these have been going to, is to the state regulator. Which I'm going to say, well, that's a violation of your civil rights and civil privileges. And you should file a complaint with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. And what they're going to do is they're going to reject it and say, hey, we're not going to do anything. And then normally people say, well, what am I supposed to do? They're not going to do anything. Well, it turns out you're supposed to then take that to the Department of Justice Office of Inspector General. Just getting down the road a little bit right now. Just continue on with this. I just want to make sure that you understand that, just because somebody gives you an answer you don't like doesn't mean that's the last answer, right? How bad do you want it? You may have to go some more. So let's look at this. I want to show who the Bureau is. Make sure everybody understands what the proper name of the Bureau is. And we get that out of the definitions where it says that the Bureau is the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection. It does not say Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Okay, and then this is that Appendix J where it said earlier that there was two ways to calculate the APR. You either use the actuarial method as described in Appendix J, annual percentage rate computations for closed-end credit transactions. Again, this isn't necessarily for a credit card, although there is provisions for a credit card, but I don't have a credit card, so I don't have any paperwork to find out what the APR and the finance charge is. You know, if you have it, want to send it to me, I'll take a look at it, but I don't have it. So this is just closed end, car loans, mortgages, things of that nature. All right, and so just to show you, here's Appendix J. What we're talking about right here is all the different symbols that they would use in this formula to come up with shit like this. Right? Well, hell, I can't even read that. I really have no idea what it says, right? But I don't need to. That's what they're supposed to use. I use what Grok said, and I'm saying, well, this is what I calculated. You, regulator, you calculate it this way and tell me what it is. Right? So this is how they should have done it. They should have done longhand calculation like this. Or they have this other thing where they can use a book to do it, and it has a name. I can't remember what it was, but it was in the first few minutes when I was talking about what it is. There it was, the actuarial method or the United States rule method. But again, nothing about, hey, just throw them into this these blank spots in this program we got online here and press enter and, believe whatever we tell you. Because it could be there's a mistake according to this. So the error resulted from corresponding error in the calculation tool. Oh, guess what? There's an error in the calculation tool. Okay, so in our particular example, after having filed a complaint with the Federal Reserve Consumer Health, get a reply back from them that they had forwarded it to, as it turned out here to be the Missouri Division of Finance. And the Missouri Division of Finance then contacted the complainee and said that, hey, we've contacted the bank and they got 21 days to answer or something like that. And him going back saying, well, in the meantime, can you help me calculate the APR and finance charges to see if I'm correct? And that's where he got this. I received a call from Consumer Finance here in Missouri. He's sending me the link they use to calculate, requesting a copy of the loan with my calculations to see that they get the same as they would be able to assist me. Website is fiec.gov that they use to establish APR. So the Missouri Division of Finance is not going to do the calculations. They're going to rely on some website, FFIEC. Let's take a look at it. Well, here it is, Federal Financial Institution Examination Council. It says the council is a formal interagency body empowered to prescribe uniform principles, standards, and report forms for federal examination of financial institutions by the Board of Governors, the Federal Reserve, Federal FDIC, so forth and so on. So the problem is none of this was talked about on, in the law that we're looking at, but nevertheless, this is who they sent them to. I don't see it sticking right out, but I'm going to hit search here, and we're going to look for, search. How about APR? APR tool. There we go. Let's see what they got. And you go to FFIEC, and hey, sure enough, they got some place you can start putting numbers in and so forth. And, loan type, amount financed, disclosed or estimated APR, disclosed finance charge, disclosed total amount of payments, so forth and so on. So that's what they did. And now we'll see where the deceit starts to come in, because this is a copy of what the gentleman sent me. Or lady, I don't remember. I got the name covered up. I'm not really sure who sent it to me exactly. Somebody sent it to me. And this is from the Division of Finance, APR check. for, and they have their name up here, and then, right, well, this is the main law regarding accuracy APR is 1026.22, which we looked at, which said well, there's only two ways to determine this, and one is the actuarial method, and the other one is whatever the other one was. Didn't say to go put them in anything into a program, but that's what they did. And so let's see. We got the annual percentage rate, got finance charge. Right, this is all the information that's on the truth in lending statement. Right? Or if you have as I've shown in the previous videos, if you have a newer mortgage, it'll have a closing disclosure, not a truth in lending disclosure. And on the closing disclosure, some information is on like the first page and some information is on the 5th page. Just watch the last couple of videos and you'll see what I'm talking about. So anyways, then they go on, you know, we're going to cut this little piece out. We'll go down here and we're going to add this and say, well, this section below describes simple interest calculation. It said the payment you promised to pay us for a principal amount of $40,000, right? This amount right here, amount financed, is 14.934% per year from the date of the contract until paid in full. So this is plus finance charges accruing on the unpaid balance at a rate of 14.934%. So they're trying to make that sound like that's what APR is, because it's, you know, it's the interest and all the fees. But they said, well, this is a simple interest calculation, which means this should be an interest calculation, not a financial charge calculation. Then they went on and gave them this thing, well, if you made all your payments the way you're supposed to, no, my calculation of total charge is using 14.934% interest rate, right? They're calling it interest rate. Now it's supposed to be the finance charge. But if you use that, you get this total finance charge of $21,000, which is what the number is on the, go back up here, right? There's the $21,000 finance charge. Here they call it an APR, annual percentage rate on this page. You go down lower, they're going to call it the interest rate. And the interest rate is not the annual percentage rate, because the annual percentage rate is the interest rate plus, or the interest because of the interest rate, plus all the other charges that go with the loan. So he's talking out both sides of his mouth, right? He's trying to justify this number. And here's the tool they used. Hey, we just saw that page. All right, and they want you to go and fill out all this information. Well, I don't want to fill out that information out. I want you to do it longhand. And they didn't. But when they got all done, they pointed all the stuff. Now, see here, now this is the annual percentage rate is 14.9231%. Now they got a 0.1. How well did they calculate it up here? Let's go back to the top. 14.934. Okay, remember that, 14.934. 14.923. So this is lower than the other one. But he's saying, hey, the results of the APR check are shown. The disclosure provided you are considered accurate as they are within 1/8% of what was calculated using the tool. So no matter that I disagree with how they did this, if you want to say that that is the APR, and I have a formula that says, well, if I know what the APR is, I can figure out the total interest rate because I know what the loan amount is, I know the loan term days, and so forth. When you do the math yourself, you would end up with right here, finance charge equals APR times loan amount times loan days divided by 365, which means finance charge, you got to turn it into a fraction, so 0.14934, times the loan amount times the loan term days divided by 365, which is 6 1/4 years, equals $37,357 of finance charge. but all that's disclosed is $21,000. So this thing is, $16,000 understated, right? So that's where we are. I mean, if you want to say if you want to tell me that the annual percentage rate's correct, then the finance charge is understated. My point is that they're trying to get us to agree with their calculations using this fucking thing here, that they're saying, well, it came off a federal website, right? It comes off a federal website, so it must be correct. And the problem is, no, it's not correct. It's totally incorrect. The only way to tell if it's correct is for them to do it longhand, right? We have to demand that they do it according to this, which says there's two ways to do it. You can either do it United States rule method, whatever the hell that is, or you have to use the actuarial method, which is in Appendix J, which we already looked at. And that isn't what they did. They put it in some boxes and spit out a number. So, regardless of what they've done so far, I mean, now they've started to commit themselves because they've made statements. This is the whole idea with this. Get somebody else to make a statement besides us, what they're basing their assumption on. Well, who oversees the consumer finance of Missouri? You got the Missouri Division of Finance, regulates banks and credit unions, lending operating in Missouri. Okay. The Missouri Attorney General Office handles consumer protection issues, including lender fraud and deceptive practices. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a federal agency responsible for enforcing TILA violations. Well, most of those are lies, but okay. Or they're half-truths. I'm going to call them a lie. So can the Missouri Inspector General help? The Missouri State Auditor or Missouri Inspector General could investigate if there's evidence of misconduct, corruption, or failure to enforce consumer finance laws by state agencies. Yes, you're not calculating the APR the way that the rule said. And the guy pointed it out on the document himself. I mean, the regulator did. He's the one saying the main law regarding the accuracy of APR is 1026.22, which gave you two choices, neither of which he used. So he's not enforcing the truth in lending laws. So, that's why I was trying to find, well, who else we could complain to in the state. And as it turns out, well, you can go to the Missouri State Auditor, the Missouri Inspector General, the Missouri Attorney General, and as I showed before, you could go here to the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division and fill out a complaint. Well, the problem is when you do that, they're going to come back almost immediately and tell you they're not going to do anything. I'll give you an example here in a second. And once that happens, then I'm saying, well, in that case, they go here to the U.S. Department of Justice Office of the Inspector General and file a complaint here for reasons I'll show in a second. But back to this part. Right? So I filed a complaint with the Civil Rights Division, not to do with this, but to do with something else. And, almost immediately got a response. Thank you for submitting a report to the Civil Rights Division. Please save your record number for tracking. And this is my record number, right? So I had a number. And this is on the 2nd of February. Well, on the 5th of February, I got an answer back that says you've contacted the Department of Justice. On the 2nd, after careful review of what you submitted, we've decided not to take any action. Okay, well, from that, then I went and I filed a complaint with the OIG, where it says in the OIG under Investigation Division, the Investigation Division investigates alleged violations of fraud, abuse, integrity laws that govern DOG employees, operations grantees, and so forth. Criminal civil prosecution, administrative action. The Investigation Division receives and processes complaints related to fraud, waste, abuse, and misconduct by DOG employees. Well, I'm saying that's what they did. If they're not going to do anything at the Civil Rights Division, that's misconduct. Well, if we find out that you're correct, then our investigations have resulted in criminal and civil restitution, recoveries, forfeitures, fines, others. and others track monies. So all that being the case, well, what the heck? Just hit the button and see what happens, right? I want to submit a complaint. Yes, I want to submit a complaint. What you do not, what you do. Well, I said I do, so submit a complaint. Waste, fraud, abuse, misconduct. Let me see. Right? Civil right violations by DOJ employees. Well, that's what I'm saying that civil rights did. And then you get to this page, which violation of civil rights or civil liberties complaint. This form should only be used to submit complaints related to violations of civil rights or civil liberties by DOJ employees. For complaints that don't involve that, do something else, right? The online complaint form is the most efficient method for submitting complaints. Okay, fine, that's what I use. Section 1001 of the USA Patriot Act directs the Inspector General to review information and receive complaints alleging abuse of civil rights and civil liberties by the Department of Justice employees. The OIG has created a special section in the Investigation Division to process these complaints. This section will identify the more serious civil rights and civil liberties allegations, assign them to the OIG employee for investigation. The OIG will refer other complaints to department components for their review and handling. So if it isn't necessarily theirs, they'll give it to whoever it might be. All right, that's how it's supposed to work. And then you're supposed to go down here and, do a hotline report. Well, that's what I did. Let's take a quick look at it. All right, that's what we're just looking at. So you come in here, you fill some stuff out. Yeah, there's all that. You put your information in. And you finally get down to what's your complaint. And I made it real simple. I said the Civil Rights Division violated my civil rights and civil liberties by its refusal to take action to redress my grievances against the government of the United States, as reported by me in Civil Rights Division report, the report number I had from my civil rights thing. Where did it happen? Well, it was in Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. Yada, 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 right? So, I mean, it's a real simple process. So I put it in, and they have not responded yet. But, you go to OIG of the DOJ to file a complaint for civil rights and civil liberties violations by the DOJ Division of Civil Rights. Right? It's like nested eggs or nested Russian eggs, one side or the other. So we'll see what they do. But so I'm saying, well, this is what you should do if you've gotten a reply. You filed the complaint to the Federal Reserve Consumer Help thing, and they sent you to the Bureau or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau instead of the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection, or they sent you to a state regulator instead of to the federal regulator, because the federal regulators are the ones that are supposed to be enforcing the Truth in Lending Act, not the state. And what did the state do? Well, they went to a federal website to say, well, we're going to go here and plug some numbers in to see if it works. And, well, that isn't what the law said to do. It said either do it by the actuarial method, by this longhand form, or use this other method, which, isn't the one I want them to use. I want to use the longhand form. Whatever you do, show me your work. You can't just plug the numbers in. But they did. And so if there's something wrong with that, well, you're still correct. We just need to now say, well, your numbers are incorrect. That's where we'll be at this week. We're just going to push the rope some more and see if we can get somebody to agree with us that, you're doing it wrong. I mean, I'm sure that the guy sitting at the state regulator's desk doesn't know any better. He's just doing whatever he's told. Put stuff in, this is what comes up. See, it must be right. That computer says so. But that isn't how she works in the real world, right? Man's been doing math for a long, long time, long before there were computers. So do the math with the values given on the disclosure. And if you find out from the values given that the APR is more than 0.25% out, or the finance charges are understated by $10 when there's no real estate involved, or $100 when there is real estate involved, they got to redo it. And then you don't have to accept the say, I don't want to do it. Give me back, give me back whatever I gave you. Because right now your money's just going into an escrow account. I'm saying they never really close these loans anyways. All your money's in an escrow account. They know exactly what they did. So we'll see how that turns out. All right, y'all have a great weekend or Sunday, what's left of it, and we'll see what Monday brings. Have a great day.